Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope everybody's doing well. Well, I thought we'd celebrate spring today by making some pretty stretch bracelets. As you can see, these bracelets feature beautiful spring colors, some focal beads and components, and a couple of charms. Now, I know a lot of you already know how to make stretch bracelets, but I'm going to be showing you a couple of different techniques today that you may or may not be familiar with. So whether you're a beginner or advanced, I want you to please stick around. We'll be using the beads that came in Didi's Deluxe Bead box for the month of April. And if you're not familiar with that box, I'll leave some information down below in the description section of this video, along with a link to the website and a coupon code in case you're interested. I'll also leave a list of all the materials that I'll be using for today's project. And don't forget that I always model my pieces at the end of my videos, so please stick around for that. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. And here we have Didi's Deluxe Bead box for the month of April 2024. The name of this box is Pastel Bliss. And I did do an unboxing video a little over a week ago. If you haven't seen it, I'll leave a link down below so you can go check it out. But anyway, this was definitely a spring themed box. It was filled with gorgeous pastel colored beads, and they were all the perfect size for bracelets. And since we had so many choices, I thought we would make 5 bracelets today. Each one will be slightly different, so hopefully it'll inspire you to make your own. One of them could actually be a kid's bracelet. Of course, you'd have to make it smaller. But today I'm going to be making 7-inch bracelets using a lot of these gorgeous beads. So let's go ahead and start with bracelet number 1, and we'll go over the materials for that. Here are the materials for the first bracelet. This one's just going to be a basic stretch bracelet, and I'm not going to attach a charm to this one, but you certainly can. Let me go over these beads with you. Here we have some Hishi rondelle beads. They're actually jade and the color is ocean blue. They measure 2 by 6 millimeters. And here we have some smooth quartz beads. They do have an AB finish and they measure 6 millimeters in size. And as you can see, I only have 8. And that's because I've already come up with a bead pattern, but I'll explain my process in just a few moments. And here we have a coin bead. It was part of the designer strand that came with the box. It measures 15 millimeters across and it's about 6 millimeters thick. I also have some bead caps. They're about 6 millimeters across and each one has 5 little petals. But other than that, they're pretty plain, which I really do appreciate because they're not going to clash with the design on that bead. That's one of the things that I try to consider if I can. It's not always possible. But when you have a certain design on a bead, you want to try to maintain the same kind of style by either using something that's very simple or something that matches. I hope that makes sense. But anyway, today we're going to be using some stretch cord, and I apologize that the sticker is in the way, but this is called Opalon Stretch Fiber Cord, and it's 0.7 millimeters thick. And if you've never used this kind of cord before, I encourage you to do so, especially for today's technique, because we're going to be passing the cord twice through each bead, and you don't want to do that with regular stretch cord. This cord is actually pretty thin and it's flat. It kind of resembles floss a little bit, but it's the perfect cord to use if you need to pass through the beads twice. I'm going to also use some glue. We're going to add a little dab to the knot, and this is called GS Hypo Cement. Now let me go ahead and discuss the process I used. As you can see, I have a bead arranging rod. I carry these in my Etsy store. They're called magic rods, and they come in 2 lengths, 9 and 12 inches. They're made out of steel, but what I like about these is that you can load all kinds of beads on here as well as bead caps, and then I use these little stoppers at the end to bring the beads in close to each other so that I can get accurate measurements. So what I like to do is arrange the beads on this rod, and that way I can offload from either end until I get the exact bead pattern and the exact length that I need. So let me show you. I just removed the little stoppers. And by the way, I do put 2 at each end, especially if I'm reusing these stoppers, because they do wear out and they do get loose. So basically what I like to do is to use these as accents and use these stacked in between each one. Let me show you. I basically start with loading it, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6. Let me just do it this way. So here's 5, and 5 would work out okay, but I feel like I need to add 1 more for a total of 6, like this. And to me, that looks okay. And that's basically how I start my bracelets. There's no mystery. I either start with 5, 6, and sometimes 7. And now I'm going to add a bead cap. because I want these beads to stand out a little bit and dress them up a little bit. So I'm adding one at each end, like that. And to me, that looks really, really cute. I like that. So now I'm going to go ahead and load another 6. These are kind of difficult to pick up because they're thin. So I'm just going to do it this way. So there's 6. Doesn't that look cute? I think it looks adorable. And now another bead cap. And one of these accent beads. And the other bead cap. And I really do love this look. So I'm just going to continue this pattern until I get the length that I need, which is about 7 inches. As you can see, I have 5 sets of the Hishi beads with a 6mm quartz bead in between. And I didn't load this last set because I wanted to show you a little tip. Here's the strand of Hishi beads, and here's what I recommend. I recommend you don't offload from the strand. Instead, what you can do is remove them from the strand like this. I have a total of 6, and load them directly onto the rod, like this. That's a little bit easier than trying to pick up one at a time. That's another nice thing about using rods. Now I know not everybody has these rods, so what you can do is use a scrap piece of wire, which is what I used to do before I came up with the idea of rods. But anyway, if you're interested in these rods, I'll leave a link to my Etsy store down below in the description section of this video. And before we go any further, let's go ahead and measure this. I guess I need to add that bead first, so let me do that. And I do want to add this one at this end, but let me go ahead and put my stoppers on at this end so I don't lose the beads. I'm putting on 2, just like that. Let me flip it, remove these stoppers here, and load this other bead. Let me put my stoppers on. There's one. And here's my second one for security. Because like I said before, they do wear out, and there's nothing worse than loading your beads on a rod and then dropping them all over the floor. Now I do want to use this, so I'm going to put it over here. And now let me measure the total. And it looks like it's a little bit under 7 inches, which is fine. But if you wanted to be more precise, you could maybe add some seed beads or something somewhere. So to make it 7 inches, what I'll do is add a couple of seed beads. I'm going to be using some size 8 seed beads, and these are Miyuki seed beads. And the color is galvanized gold. So these two should make up the difference, and I'll have exactly a 7-inch bracelet. Let me go ahead and remove these. We don't need these. Another thing you could do, instead of using seed beads, you could put a Hishi bead on either side of that coin bead. That's another idea, because these are pretty thin, so that would work out as well. But I'm just going to go ahead and use the seed beads today. Let me just move these up a little bit. Here's my stretch cord. I'm going to cut myself a pretty generous amount. I'm cutting myself about 20 inches. And the reason I'm cutting myself 20 inches is because we're going to be passing through the beads twice, and I want to leave myself a little bit extra to make the knot. There's nothing worse than trying to make knots when you don't have enough cord. And here's my big eye needle. Now what I recommend you do is to trim off the ends a little bit, because these needles are a little bit sharp. So let me show you. I'm using some flush cutters, and I'm just going to snip off the end. Just like that. I have a little clip here. I'm going to attach it to one of the ends so I don't lose my beads. You can use a bead stopper if you want to. Let me go ahead and thread the cord through the big eye needle. I need to open it up a little bit like this. Slide it through. And my cat just jumped on my lap. I don't know if you can hear him purring. He likes to join me whenever I do beading. So if you hear purring, that's what it is. But anyway, before you start loading your beads, you need to think about where you're going to hide the knot. And it's not going to be that difficult with this bracelet because I'm simply going to slide it inside that bead there, which will sit right by the focal bead. Of course, you could always slide it inside the focal bead as well, if the holes are big enough. But I think the hole in this bead is a little bit bigger. But anyway, like I say, that's something you need to think about before you start sliding the beads onto your cord. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and start with the seed bead. And now the focal bead, the coin bead. And the other seed bead. Like this. And now to offload from the rod, I'm going to hold onto this end, the right side, carefully slide the stoppers off. And now I'm going to grab this bead and both bead caps all at once and slide them onto my needle like this. And now the stack of he/she beads, all 6 of them, and slide them onto the needle. That's one of the nice things about these rods. They hold the beads and bead caps in alignment. So I'm able to do this. Otherwise, I'd be picking up one at a time. And I know there are needles out there that are long enough for a bracelet. The difference between that and this rod is that I can offload from both ends without having to thread on some stretch cord. So let me just keep going. As you can see, I have all the beads on the cord and I have them centered on my 20-inch piece of cord. Now, one thing that I forgot to mention, guys, is that you need to pre-stretch your cord, but it's not too late to do it now. So I'm going to put a clip on this end to hold the beads in place so I don't lose the beads. And I'm going to go ahead and stretch my cord. Let me go to this end now. And the reason you have to do this is because with time, the cord will stretch on its own, and then you'll end up with a very loose bracelet, and you don't want that. That should be good enough. And I'm going to slide them to the right a little bit, and I'm going to leave myself a little tail, as you can see. Let me go ahead and remove this clip. So now what I'm going to do is pass my needle through all the beads. Let me just move them down. To make things easy, I'm going to place a clip at this end temporarily to keep the beads in place. Let me remove this one now. And now I'm going to go ahead and go through all the beads again with a needle. As you can see, I've gone through a second time and I'm coming out of that bead cap. Let me just remove my needle. And remove this clip as well. So now what I need to do is get rid of this gap. I'm going to go ahead and pull on each end until the beads come together. You may have to help out the beads by sliding them. And you want to take your time doing this because you don't want to break the cord. You want to pull on both ends, but you don't want to overdo it because the cord will break if you're too rough. So you want to take your time. And I am getting there, but it is a little challenging because I'm trying to be careful with the cord. That looks pretty good. So now we're going to make a knot. And this is how I do mine. I'm going to take the left side, place it over the right side like this. Take the tail, go over and under like this, and pull. And now I'm going to take the right side, go over the left side like this. Take this tail, go over and under, and pull. And you want to pull on the beads as well. So that's what we have so far. So now I'm going to take this left tail, go over the right tail like this. Take this tail on the left, go through the loop 2 times. So that's once. And that's twice. And that's what you should have. And pull. And I'm pulling on the beads as well. And that's what we have so far. Now you're welcome to do another knot just like that, but it's been my experience that doing it this way is good enough. Plus I'm going to add some glue for security. Here's my GS Hypo Cement. Let me just pull that knot out so I can see it. I'm simply going to add a little dab, just like that. You don't need that much. And now I'm going to cut off the excess, but I'm not going to cut too close to the knot. I'm going to leave just a little bit. So there's my knot, as you can see. And now I'm going to slide it towards the bead cap and inside that quartz bead. I think it's in there now, and you don't even see it. I think the bracelet is very, very cute. I love the combination of the blue and the white. Now I'm not going to put it on just yet because I want to let that glue dry a little bit, but I will put it on at the end of this video and show you what it looks like. So now let's move on to bracelet number 2. Let me get the materials for that. Here are the materials for the second bracelet. Aren't these gorgeous? I love the colors. They were part of the designer strand. And as you can see, there are 4 colors and a total of 8 beads. So 2 of each color, 2 green ones, 2 red ones, 2 purple ones, and 2 blue ones. And they measure 11 by 11 millimeters. I know it's an odd size, but that's what they measure. And here we have some 6 millimeter Burmese rosewood beads. They're supposed to be fragrant, but if they are, it's very faint. I honestly can't smell anything, but I love the idea of having some wood beads with glass beads. And here we have 2 metal spacer beads. They came in the designer strand as well. They're about 4 millimeters in size. I have a whole bunch of bead caps, and they're from my own collection. The box did come with bead caps, but I'm going to be using them on the other bracelets, and I didn't have enough for this one, so that's why I'm using my own. And here's a very pretty daisy connector. It's 14 karat gold plated, so it's pretty special. So it's a little bit higher quality than other connectors. But anyway, guys, I did the same thing that I did before. I arranged my beads on one of my rods until I got the length that I needed. That's why I added these 2 metal spacer beads. And I don't want to bore you again by loading them on my rod right now as I'm filming. So let me go ahead and do it off camera, and I'll be right back. As you can see, I've loaded the beads on my rod. I started with a spacer bead, then a bead cap, then one of these large bicone beads, another bead cap, a rosewood bead, and I repeated the exact same sequence all the way down. And as far as the colors go, I started with purple, then green, red, blue, purple, green, red, blue. But you can do it whichever way you want. And here I have my connector link. And I did measure this length. It's a little bit over 6 1/4 inches. And the connector link measures a little bit over 1/2 inch. But anyway, the bracelet will be just a little bit, a smidgen under 7 inches, which is fine. And once again, I have a 20-inch piece of opal on. Let me go ahead and pre-stretch it. that should be good enough. Here's my needle. I always have a hard time opening up the eye of the needle, so I use pliers. It's a little bit easier this way. And now I'm going to slide the cord through. Like this. Let me place a clip right here on this end. And it's the same thing as before, guys. I'm just going to go ahead and offload from the rod onto my cord. So once again, I'm going to hold onto this end of the rod, remove a bead, slide it onto my needle, and let me see if I can do all of these at once. Sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. But there's that one. So let me keep going. As you can see, I've got all the beads on the cord now. So now I'm going to attach this connector. I'm going to go through one of the petals like this, bring it down. And once again, I need to go through all the beads. Let me just pull out this tail. It is a little bit tricky, I'm not going to lie to you. But this time I'm going to try to avoid having such a gap. So I'm going to slide the beads down little by little. And I'm only going to go through 4 of these bicone beads. And I'll explain why in just a few moments. As you can see, I've come out of this bicone, and that's where I'm going to hide the knot. And again, I loaded all the beads onto the cord. I attached the connector, and then I came through these beads again a second time and exited out of that bicone. So let me go ahead and remove the needle because I don't need the needle on this end. And I'm going to attach it to this end now. And I'm actually going to attach my clip to this end so the beads don't slide around. Just like that. So now what I need to do is go through this connector. So I'm going to go through one of these petals, the one that's on the opposite side. Like this. And I need to go through all these beads. Let me just pull that tail out. And I don't want to end up with a big gap like before, so I'm just going to go ahead and adjust it as I go along. And I'm not going to go through all the beads, I'm just going to go halfway. Let me use my pliers. As you can see, I'm exiting out of this bead, the rosewood bead, which is right by the other tail. Here's the other tail. So now I'm going to remove my needle. And I'm going to remove the clip. And once again, you want to make sure you don't have any space or gap. So I'm pulling both ends. As you can see, there's no gap now. You do want to check the petals to make sure the cord's attached properly and it's not tangled up on the other petals. Sometimes that can happen. And I'm going to do the same exact knot that I did before on the other bracelet. I have a right tail and a left tail. I'm going to take the left tail, cross it over the right, take this tail now, go over and under or through the loop, and pull. And now I'm going to take the right side, cross it over the left, take this tail now, go over and through the loop, and pull. And I'm pulling on the beads as well as the tails to get that knot nice and tight. So now we're going to do the final knot. I'm going to take the left side, cross it over the right, take this tail on the left, and go through the loop 2 times. Like this, and pull. That should be good enough. Let me just give you a close-up. And now I'm going to get the glue. Here it is. Let me go ahead and apply a little dab. And now let me snip off the excess cord. I'm going to leave just a little bit, just like I did before. Let me just show you. As you can see, they're very small tails. And I'm going to slide the knot into this larger bead. Just like that. And you definitely can't see it. So this bracelet's done now, and I think it's super adorable. And like I said, I love the combination of the glass and the wood beads. So now we're going to move on to bracelet number 3. Let me get the materials for that. Here are the materials for bracelet number 3. And as you can see, I've already loaded the beads onto a rod to save time. But before I go any further, let me go over the beads with you. These are faceted crystal rondelles, and they measure 6 by 4 millimeters. And as you can see, it's a mix of colors, and they're all pastel colors. I think they're very pretty. We have some aqua, we have some cream colored beads, this pinkish purple color, and we have some other ones that are more purple. Let me just give you a close-up. I think these are adorable. They really are. They're very, very pretty. Now I do have a charm holder right there, and it's actually from my own stash. I got these on Amazon, and they come in different sizes in this box. This one measures 6 millimeters in size, and it's a little bit thinner than a size 8 seed bead, which is what these are, but I think it still looks nice. And down here I have a connector link. It has 2 loops, as you can see, and it has a gold frame, and the color of the glass is ocean blue. It measures 28 by 14 millimeters. And I have another one of these daisy connectors. I'm going to use it as a charm. Like I said earlier, it measures about 15 millimeters. I'm going to use this 4 millimeter jump ring to connect the charm. I am going to load the beads and the link onto some stretch cord. I'm going to do it the exact same way that I showed you in the previous bracelet. I'm going to load all of these onto the cord first, and then I'm going to go through one of these loops and go back through the beads until I reach the center where the charm holder is, and then I'm going to exit out. And then I'll attach my needle to the other end, go through the other loop, and then go back through the beads and come out of where that charm holder is and tie a knot just like I did before. So you might want to rewind to the previous bracelet if you need a refresher. But to save time, I'm going to do it off camera, and then I'll come back and attach the charm. So I'll see you in a few moments. As you can see, I've strung on all the beads. and I'm coming out right here where the charm holder is. Initially I was going to hide the knot there, but I've changed my mind. I'm actually going to hide it inside one of these 2 rondelles on either side. And the reason is that that charm holder is actually pretty wide, and I don't want the knot to show. But anyway guys, the whole thing measures about 7 inches, including this connector. So let me go ahead and tie it off, apply some glue, just like I did with bracelet number 2, and then I'll come back and attach the charm. Here's my pretty bracelet. I knotted it off and applied some glue, and now I'm ready to attach this charm. Let me open up this jump ring. It's a very tiny jump ring. I'm going to slide on the charm like this, and now I'm going to slide it onto the loop of this charm holder like this. Let me close up my jump ring. There it is, attached. I think this bracelet is very, very cute. So now we're going to move on to bracelet number 4. Let me get the materials for that. Here are the materials for bracelet number 4. And I'm not going to have a charm with this one. I'm just going to have the beads and the bead caps. These colored beads are selenite beads, and the color is a rainbow mix. They measure 6 millimeters in size. And this is a very interesting bead. It's called a curved tube slider. It's made out of high quality acrylic, and the color is orchid with AB finish, and it measures 30 millimeters across. What's interesting about this bead is that the hole is actually very straight. It's not curved. I know it looks curved, but it's actually an optical illusion. Let me show you. Here's the second one. The box came with 2. I'm going to insert my rod. As you can see, the rod goes in very easily. So the hole is very straight, but it gives the illusion of being curved, which I think is so cool. But anyway, as you can see, I have 4 selenite beads with rosewood beads in between each set. And I do have bead caps on the rosewood beads. These actually came on the designer strand. Let me show you. They're actually filigree petal leaf bead caps. Now the designer strand only came with 3 sets of those bead caps, so I had to use the other 2 beside this bead here. So these are a little bit different, as you can see. They're still petal leaf bead caps, but they're smooth and they're plain. I thought it would be okay to have them on either side of this tube bead. But anyway guys, I'm going to go ahead and string them on some stretch cord, tie off the knot, and apply some glue just like I did in bracelet number 1, the one with the Hishi beads. So if you need to watch that again to refresh your memory, by all means do so. So to save time, I'm going to do this one off camera and I'll be right back. And here's my finished bracelet. I'm pretty happy with it. I think it looks really nice. And by the way, when I loaded these on my rod, I kept them in the same order that they appeared on the strand. Here's the strand. As you can see, they're strung on in a certain order as far as the colors, and I wanted to keep that same sequence of colors. So the colors are exactly how they appear on the strand, except that I have the rosewood beads in between each set of 4. So now we're going to move on to the final bracelet, bracelet number 5. Let me get the materials for that. Here are the materials for the final bracelet, bracelet number 5. And this little charm actually came from my own collection. It's a perfect little charm if you're making a little girl's bracelet. But I'm actually going to make this bracelet 7 inches as well. I just wanted to show you the charm and the possibilities. I got this one on Amazon. Here's the bag. The bag came with a whole bunch of them, as you can see. And they all have a little bit of enamel on them in different colors. So if you're making a bracelet for a little girl, you'd have to make something a little bit smaller, somewhere in the vicinity of 5.5 to 6 inches. So obviously if you're going to do that, you'll need less beads. But let me go over these beads with you. These are faceted crystal beads and they're frosted and they're in a pale pink color. They measure 6 by 4 millimeters. And as you can see, I have 5 sets of 4. In between each set, I used the quartz beads, the smooth quartz beads with the AB finish, with bead caps at each end and a spacer bead in the middle. The spacer bead is from my own collection. It measures 6 millimeters across. And actually, I don't know if you guys noticed, this bead cap is facing the wrong way, so I need to fix that before I string them, obviously. Let me go ahead and do that before I forget. So now it's fixed. But anyway, guys, I'm going to string these on just like I did in bracelet number 1, and then I'll tie it off and apply glue to the knot and attach this charm with the 4mm jump ring, just like I did in the previous bracelet. So let me go ahead and do it off camera and I'll be right back. And here's my finished bracelet. I think it's so precious, it really is. I love these pretty frosted pink rondelles, and the little charm is absolutely adorable. And I don't know which bead I hid the knot inside, You can hide it inside any one of these beads. It really doesn't matter. So now I'd like to show you the entire collection, all 5 bracelets. So let me go get them and then I'll put them on for you. And here are all 5 bracelets. And I think each one is very attractive in its own way. Whether you like the softer pastel colors or the more intense blue colors. And also there's a variety of sizes. Some of these are pretty dainty looking, and of course some of them have larger beads. One thing I did want to mention, whenever you're working with larger beads like this one for example, you should try to make the length a little bit longer than 7 inches. And that's because the large beads take up some of the inner diameter, but I usually don't add any more than 1/4 of an inch. One thing you should do after you load the beads onto your stretch cord and before you go through them a second time is to wrap them around your wrist to make sure that it's the length that you want. But anyway, I'm pretty happy with all 5 bracelets. I'd love to hear your comments. And also if you could tell me which one is your favorite, I'd really appreciate that. Let me go ahead and show you what they look like on. Here's this one. I absolutely love these colors, I really do. They're so gorgeous. I love the selenite beads. Let me show you this one. This one's very cute as well. Kind of on the dainty side. And very spring-like as well because of the colors. And by the way, I got these spacer beads at Amazon. Let me show you. Here's the pack. They come in all kinds of colors. I think they come in bronze and silver as well. And you can also find these on Etsy. Let me show you this one now. I think this one's cute too. I really like these faceted rondelles. And I like this charm. This one could be spring or it could be summer. And I say summer because of the aqua colors. Let me show you this one now. This one's really cute too. I really love transparent, colorful beads like these. They're super cute. Let me show you this one now. This one definitely looks like summer to me because of the white and because of the turquoise colors. Actually, the color of these jade hishi beads is ocean blue. So that's definitely summer. And these look like little pearls. But I think it's really adorable, isn't it? And you could definitely team some of these up. For example, these two would look really good together. And these two would look really good together. Let me show you. Here's this one. I really love the color of this tube bead and these beads as well. They look really good together. And let me show you these two. Here's these two together. These two look really nice together as well. And like I said before, if you made this one smaller, it would be the ideal bracelet for a little girl. So anyway, guys, I hope I've given you some ideas and some new tips as well. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Have a great day and I'll see you next time. Bye.